Bonnie, can you guys hear me? Yes, excellent. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day, happy whatever day it needs to be for you. Thank you for joining me today. I'm assuming most of you found this through my page and are dealing with certain disorders, perhaps not. Today is about massage guns, and I've had a lot of questions in my group this week from new people and sometimes new conditions. So you've got a gun and something's cropped up and maybe you haven't used it regularly and nobody wants to be a guinea pig. So today I wanted to go over a few basics. What is a massage gun? Why would you use one? Maybe you have one now. Just like anything in life, there are differences between the guns. And I thought if I kind of break down a few things to look for if you're comparing online or even perhaps just looking within the settings of your own tools, you might be a little more comfortable to experiment and show some of these things towards your self-care routine. So I've got a few things down on the ground here because it's easier to show than talk. So I'm going to move back here. And what I'll do is I'm going to do some talking and showing, and then I'm going to come back up for questions. So, but I'm old and I need to see better. There, now I can see myself. All right. Okay. So I'm not sure how many of you have massage guns now. I've got a couple of different ones here. And when I was getting ready for the session this morning, I thought, oh, there's so many gray areas in the form of tools, and there are some people that are going to maybe have issues trying to use a massage gun. So, those good days and bad days. So I also have vibration rollers. I haven't actually talked about these too much, but I thought that there's kind of similar applications between the guns and why I would use the rollers. So I thought I'll kind of explain both. And then if you have either of these at home, might just give you some ideas of how to target some areas that maybe you haven't considered. So generally speaking, massage guns are kind of everywhere. They're, we as women tend to look at size and what color is it and how many attachments come. But the mechanical side of these guns are similar to vibration plates. And there's a couple of things, if you're looking online or looking at within your own manual, just to target in on. The first thing with a vibration gun is a term called amplitude. And I've talked about it with vibration machines. When you're standing on the vibration machine in this mode, when you stand wide, you're moving a lot. When you're closer to the center, you're not moving as much. You're changing the amplitude. So on a massage gun, the amplitude is a fixed setting. And what the amplitude is how much it's moving this way. And there is a difference between guns. Sometimes a gun's bigger because it's driving a further distance in that amplitude. And you're going to see ranges of how much this thing, I want to give you a visual on this one. So if this thing is on and moving, I'm referring to the distance that this part is moving each time. You're going to see on a mini gun, something little like this, per size is probably going to be the 9 to maybe 11 millimeter range. In Canada, we would call that just over a centimeter. In the US, you guys would call that maybe a little over a half an inch. So that's how much. And what that's going to equate to when you start using the gun is how hard it's hitting you, how strong that impact is when it's hitting you. And you can adjust that with settings as far as the speeds, which I'll talk about separately as the factor number 2. But amplitude, just like vibration machines, it isn't really something we talk about. Everybody talks about speeds and programs and how many frequencies or hertz you have. But amplitude is one of 2 things that kind of tailor how this feels when you're applying it to your body. So if you're very, very sensitive, you're very thin, you're prone to bruising, you may not want to look at a large amplitude. The opposite end of the spectrum, just to give you a comparison, I think this little one is like 8 or 9 millimeters. My Sonic, this is an older model, but my Sonic Mini, this is called, is 11 millimeters of amplitude. But there are guns as you step up into the lineup, certainly within LifePro, where you get up to 13, and I've seen guns in the 15, 16 range. Now, those larger amplitudes, who would those, this is sometimes where there's never one tool for every application. I wish there was. But if you're dealing with a larger body, you know, you're the type of person that goes for a massage and you want that masseuse drilling her elbow into your back. You've got very high tolerance. So sometimes when you've got chronic pain and other issues, you actually have high tolerance because you're used to dealing with this pain. So, you know, these are things to consider. For me personally, my favorite feel for general use is this something in the 11 to 13 range, but I prefer the smaller for smaller body parts or smaller people. And I do work with a lot of smaller bodies. So if you're looking at using this for your kids, your animals, you know, just you're using it more on your hands at work all the time, you may want to look at something with smaller amplitude. Just keep in mind, you know, are you massaging here or you're massaging here regularly? So sometimes having a couple of guns, if you find this is technology that you like using, you may have a couple of different guns for that reason. So amplitude is when you're looking, just something to consider. The other factor before I get into speeds or the intensity on the speeds is a term called stall force. So if you're looking at specs on a gun, there's another term. Look at me, I just stepped on probably my third set of dollar store glasses this month. Stall force means how much, if you're taking the gun and you're using it for strong applications where you're applying a lot of pressure, perhaps you're a therapist and you're doing a lot of manual application with it yourself. Maybe you're a big guy and you like to really push into those big, deep muscles. Stall force is how much pressure you can apply into the gun before it's going to kick back and say, okay, I can only push so far and resist you at the same time. So the bigger guns, the higher amplitude guns, they tend to also have a higher stall force. For your general day-to-day use, I rarely have a gun stall out on me. The only time I've ever had a gun stall out is when I'm trying to test how much it will take before it stops. So there is some internal mechanisms built. You know, it's not about, you know, bearing your entire body weight by any means. This isn't a vibration machine. It's not built to withstand body weight. But if you are applying deep and you're going to do some, you know, big muscle applications on a regular basis, maybe you're using it as recovery after the gym, look for something with a higher stall force. So, you know, just to explain some of these terms if you see them. The last thing and the most important thing, which is also very similar to a vibration machine, and then we're going to get into some application and some of the tools that come with it, is the speed or the level or how fast the gun is moving. So I'm going to get up and do this visual again. So when you turn your gun on, most guns are going to have at least 3 speeds, some have 5 or 6. But the slower you go, if you've ever watched any of my vibration plate sessions, the slower you go, the slower you're moving. And with a massage gun, the smaller the head. Hang on, this one. Okay. So on the really slow speed on camera, you can almost even see that moving. Okay. Just like on the vibration machine, you know, your body's got more time to stabilize. It's more of a destabilizing or a choppier feeling in the movement. Same with a massage gun. And I've done this on a couple of other videos, but you see how I'm just, instead of like, I'm not drilling into my hand, but I'm just letting it skim the surface of my hand and it's kind of bouncing all over the place. And it's kind of hard to hang on to and it's kind of jerky. Don't be afraid to bring the speed up. This is not a treadmill or an elliptical. It's not about starting slow in the form of speed. It's more about starting slow in the form of application, how much pressure you personally apply. So whatever your gun offers, I want you to come up to a mid, maybe not the top, but a higher range speed. And you'll notice on camera, it's not as prominent. You can't see the moving as easily. And you'll notice on my hand, you can hear it, but it's not jumbling all over the place like it was on that slower speed. So when you first start using a massage gun, the speeds, they actually equate to frequencies, how many times per second the head of this massager is moving. But you'll find when you're starting out that the mid to higher speeds are smoother, they're more tonic, they're less, you know, whammy feeling or choppy feeling as those slow speeds. So what I would recommend, especially if you're starting with smaller body parts, you're dealing with tinnitus, you know, you're trying to target some joint pain, something to do with the hands. The first trick, and this is better shown on camera as well, I want you to just sort of skim the surface. So you see how it doesn't look like it's even touching my skin, but you can hear that it is. what I want is you just get used to what your tolerance is, and it may vary depending on what body part you're applying this to, okay? Maybe you want to do the forearms, okay? I'm just skimming the surface, and you might only do this for 30 seconds to a minute. The hardest thing about starting with massage guns is the arm that's holding it. I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's hanging on to this thing that's vibrating. So it's getting kind of exercise as a side benefit, if you will. So you're going to notice over time, just by holding the gun, you're going to develop better grip strength. Probably less pain in the hands because of all the circulation. So once your tolerance builds up, then you can start to apply, and you'll start noticing that gap. You can't really notice it. It's moving deeper in the muscle. So how much pressure you apply is more about starting slow or going harder. How much pressure you apply is going to change depending on what you're trying to treat, how small the muscle groups are, and your personal tolerance is the biggest variance. Depending on, are you dealing with, an old tendon injury and sore spot, or are you just trying to work out some muscle pain from those deadlifts at the gym? So your tolerance is going to vary. And the reasons you want to use a gun, it's really any reason that you can possibly think of, just because they feel good. They release tension. They increase, flexibility and range of motion. They're the best tool I can think of for targeting trouble spots on the go. So I love my Vibe machines, and there isn't a move on the planet that I can't use to fix my body when in need, but I can't take it with me in the car and on road trips all the time, or, maybe I'm going over to a friend's house and they need some attention. So a massage gun, if you're not using vibration technology now, there's lots of associated benefits, vibration tech in general, but this is a different application than a vibration plate. It's really going to do a good job of complementing other things that you're doing. And I'm just going to break into now, I need a little slurp of coffee, and then I'm going to break into some fitness type stuff, and I'm going to break into some medical type stuff, because there's different reasons that you'll use the gun, but sometimes the moves are the same. So one moment. All my Canadian folks. It's not even a Canadian company anymore. Okay, so ways that you can use your massage gun and your other tools. So some of the tools I have here, as long as everybody can see me, most of the guns come with at least 4, 3, 5 attachments. Some have more, and it's just to give you variety, to further tailor your experience with this device. There isn't the perfect nodule for every tip. So this is one of the round foam heads. Is this the best tip to use for lipedema? Or is this the best tip to use for recovering your quads after a workout? I don't know. It really depends on how it feels to you. But what I can say from experience, and depending on your tolerance, some heads have, a better general application than others. So for me personally, the round foam ball, it is a bit more of a general use. I don't recommend if you play with your pets and massage them. Yes, I use massage guns on pets. The foam ball is the last one you want to do, because it's the hardest to clean. So I like the foam ball if you're using it over clothing. It moves nicely over clothing. I'm lacking there, but over clothing, if you're doing the legs. If you're doing, a mid to a larger sized muscle group, I don't find it my favorite when I'm trying to target smaller areas in the neck or the wrists. There's some other ones I recommend. But this is a good one if you're just playing with a gun for the first time. I'm going to start before I get into the workout. What's a good application if I'm just dealing with hand tension or pain or arthritis or some of these things. I'm all about combining, and I'm set up because I just had a session prior to this, so I already have a machine here. So I'm just going to sit up on my plate to give you a little bit of a better view. But what I would recommend if you're dealing with grip strength issues, you've never entertained a massage gun because you can't possibly entertain, even hanging on to one. Well, guess what's going to get the hand and the arm stronger? This is a really hard one to get started with. I want you to turn on to, as I said earlier, a mid to high strength. And I just want you to practice holding the gun. Just hanging on to it. There's this secondary or secondhand vibration that you get. And even though this is the part that we're, meant to apply to our body, just by hanging onto the gun, you're going to start developing grip strength. You're going to improve circulation. Maybe you're dealing with neuropathy or, Raynaud's syndrome. There's all kinds of different things that can go on with your hands. Just hanging on to the gun, both hands, different areas of the gun, it's a very good tool just for general hand health, long before you even start applying it to your body. And as far as a recommended speed or level, again, start with a mid-range, see how it feels, and really it's whatever feels good to you. I don't recommend doing this first exercise for, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Try it out for a minute or two. Perhaps you're just sitting on the couch watching TV and you're resting the massage gun on your lap and you're simply hanging onto it. Maybe hang on to it in an upright position. Maybe there's exercises you're supposed to be doing, side twists. Whatever you're supposed to be doing. If you're dealing with hand issues and it's too hard to get down on the ground, start just holding your gun. So that's the first lesson. Whether you're using it to apply it to your body yet or not, you're going to get improvement in the hands. So another reason you'd want to use a vibration machine. If you're dealing with neuropathy, I mentioned that can happen with the hands. I'm going to switch over here and I'm going to combine this with using the vibration plate. I'm just going to get the vibration plate also going at a mid to high setting. If you're dealing with neuropathy, a lot of times in the feet and the ankles, we have a tendency to just treat that area. But, the nerves are missing signals. They're not communicating and they got a long way to travel. So if you're able to get down on the ground and you're already doing massage, I encourage you to, start hanging on to your gun while you're massaging your legs, while you're sitting on your plate, while you're doing some of your passive exercises. If you're doing this, you can combine it by starting to massage the legs themselves. And I'll show you the feet here in a second. So to do the legs, I've got this going again at a mid speed. I'm just going to keep the foam ball on it for now. And while I'm massaging my calves, I'm going to bring it up. I'm just going to go on either side of that shin bone, up and down. You might find two hands makes this a little bit easier to hang on to. If you find that you're bouncing or you're rattling all over the place, speed it up a little bit and skim more. There's not a lot of meat on the top of the shins, so you just want to skim the surface of it. You're not trying to apply a whole lot of pressure, okay? And again, just on either side of that shin bone. And you can start curling the legs and work the calves. If you're doing manual massage for lymphatic drainage or you get swollen legs towards the end of the day, I started this off as talking about neuropathy, but there's lots of reasons that's caused. Perhaps you are carrying extra swelling or tension or spasticity. There's all kinds of reasons that we need to loosen and relax the calves, okay? If you have range of motion, my favorite way to massage my feet, and I'm just doing this so you guys can see it here, but you could do this seated in a chair, on the couch. If you have the range of motion, cross this foot up over the other one and just start working the foot ever so gently. I like to start kind of just do like a round and round the garden. If anybody knows that, I'm dating myself. But just do a circular motion in the arch of that foot. Get up into where the bottom of those toes connect to the top of the foot. The tips of the toes. Use your hand to support the toes. And again, we're just skimming the surface of the foot at a mid to high speed. If it feels good, work around the ankle. You want to use a softer tip for this one. If you got the range of motion, of course, we would spend some time working on the other foot. So by combining this, you're going to get a lot more blood flow, circulation, lymphatic movement. And, instead of trying to lean over, or, this is just something that I wanted to show you, that you can combine these two technologies to ramp up the benefits of both. Okay, so moving on, as far as massage, I want to move to another head and a different muscle group. So again, just to recap very quickly, there's no perfect blueprint as far as what head is perfect for what application. You're going to have to experiment with your body type and what you're trying to accomplish. So we're going to switch from, I'm going to switch to the minigun because I've already got a bigger head on it. So this one, you'll notice the shape of the tip is rounder and flatter. Depending on the gun that you have, some of them come with a variety of similar looking flat. This one's got steel on it. These I like to use for larger muscle groups. So the quads, the glutes, the calves, you know, really depending on why you may want to target it. If you're dealing with chronic pain, tightness, that's one reason that you might want to target it. But, you know, maybe you just want to warm up or recover before you go to the gym, or before you do your vibration plate, or before you go to a yoga class. So a gun is a really good way to just warm the muscle groups up, assist in recovering after you've done your activities, and to get more bang for your buck in time to get those larger muscle groups. Try one of your larger tips. I'm wearing clothing, and again, guess what? I'm going to start at a mid to high speed. To be honest with you, when I'm doing my quads, I prefer the highest speed because it's the most tolerance, and I have the yoga pads already built in. So depending on your range of motion, one of the ways I like to do my quads is I just get one knee on the ground, and I sort of start kind of around my knee, right? And I work it up in strokes. If you're dealing with a condition and you've been taught an actual technique, or there's something that you're supposed to be doing as far as direction for flow, adhere to those same guidelines, okay? This is something, again, you could, I just like doing it on the floor so you can see it on camera, but you could do this just seated in a chair. You could do this while you're seated on the ground if you got the range of motion. Okay, you really, you know, as far as time, if you're dealing with a lot of pain and you have a lot of sensitivity, you know, keep it moderate if you're first starting out, maybe 1-2 minutes to get started. See how you feel. You can always do a little bit more later on. The worst, it feels so good sometimes, especially if you're getting pain relief and swelling dissipate out of this, but it's really easy to overdo it. You know, not just for the massaging of the legs, but your hands hanging onto it the whole time. You might have some good pins and needles for a little bit while going on. That's very common to be a little bit itchy, or feel like you're, you know, a certain body part, like the pins and needles, like it's falling asleep. That's going to dissipate after about a week or two. I've mentioned the same thing happens on a vibration plate. Another area for certainly my lipedema ladies, a lot of you dealing with lymphedema is you have those areas that pool in your body, very commonly in the back of the knees. So a really easy way to get the back of the leg as well as the back of the knee is I've just got my foot propped up on an exercise block, maybe about 10-12 inches here. You could put your foot up on a stool or the coffee table. My other foot is flat on the ground, and I'm just leaning my arm on, and I'm using the other leg to do the underside of the thigh. You don't have to get down on the ground and roll around and do this, but these are my two tight spots. I've been dealing with sciatic forever. And it's my own fault because I just sit too much and don't do enough of this. So right now, that one nerve that just shoots up, you can feel it almost connecting to the butt cheek. You know what I mean? And then I get into the butt cheek and I just do little circles. Just let your pain guide you. And, you know, again, just start skimming the surface. And what you might find as you start working a muscle a little bit, you might develop more tolerance. So when you first start out, if it's really sensitive, just be patient. Skim the surface, get that blood work going, warm up the area, and you might be able to target a little bit deeper as you progress. Carmen, can you see that okay, honey? Awesome. Okay. So again, and then I know the hips are another big concern. So how I like to work the hips, again, I'm using the larger, use what you like, but for me personally, I find for these bigger areas, I like the larger group. Some of you are using essential oils, you know, if you're doing that as well. And then I just like to work in little circular motions around. You know, and it's like you're exercising your arms at the same time. Is that the added bonus or what? You know, maybe up and down. You kind of got to work with what feels best for you personally. And then up and down, make sure you get that tendon. You know the one I'm talking about. Okay. And then for me personally, I know many of you are dealing with bad knees, you know, not bad behaved knees, but you just can't really count on them. You know, I've even gotten to the point where it feels kind of nice. I don't move around. I kind of just hold it on the edge of the joint. And then I come back into those tendons a little bit. Again, I've got pretty high tolerance. I like this flat one. I feel I have a little bit more control. And even though you'd think logically I'm right on the tendon right now. It just feels awesome. I should have done this about 3 hours ago. Okay. So I want to switch gears a little bit while we're working the thighs. If some of you at this point are looking at me and going, Debbie, there's no way, I can't hold a massage gun, it'll never happen. Of course, I always have plan B. So this is where, when I was talking about this last night, and okay, maybe you're so below baseline that you can only hold on to this for 30 seconds. Well, I don't want you to wait a year to be able to hold it to work those big thigh muscles. So there are, if you've got rollers, whether they vibrate or not, there are other ways, so something like this, you're still getting the vibration on the hands. This is what they call the peanut. And I really like this one. To be honest with you, I got it for the back of my knee, just when I'm sitting on the couch, or I'm really bad for sitting on my knees and I'm not supposed to. So, you can wedge this under the kneecap. It's just if you're sitting lots, this is, and the mobility is not there to do some of the stuff I've been playing with. These are very similar. So you just mid to high speed. Don't start with the slow choppy stuff. And while you're hanging on to it, just start with that knee and add a little pressure. I'm not very good at rolling it. I'm sure there's a model out there that would demo it better than me, but you can just work it this way. And it's bigger to hang on to. It's kind of like yoga mat grippy, so it's not going to slip out of your hands. But this is a really nice alternative too. If you're the type of person that finds, reality is you're just spending time on a couch. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I can't make you do anything, but if you prefer to just sit on the couch and or you need to because you're dealing with a recovery situation or something, something like this might be a better option. Just sitting there and rolling it slowly up and down those muscle groups while you're sitting on the couch. Heck, if you're at the couch, you can just tuck it right under there and just rest your leg right on it. So this is even more passive, I would say, than the gun. And I'm actually very impressed with how much power is coming out of this little peanut. It's not too much that it's uncomfortable. I'd almost think if I'm dealing with Parkinson's or tremor type situations, this might be a really easy passive therapy. Not only is it sort of something to do, but it's very easy to operate. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, and any of these things are all lithium battery charged. So that's a little itty bitty one. I think most of you have seen the ball. That's another option too. And then this is the big bad boy. This is the vibrating roller. And this one's also got like a heat shroud around it. So if you like heat, not everybody likes heat. But, if you're the type of person switching for medical conditions a bit, if you're the person that likes to roll, you can incorporate, some of that rolling into using these type of accessories, or you can just use them passively, just rest the knee on over top of it. This one I don't have a chair set up here right now, but I like using this one on the couch. I'm such a sloucher. I'm like the worst sloucher. It's a tall thing. So when I'm sitting on the couch, I'll wedge it kind of just in my back and sit up against the couch. I got like a big fluffy back couch. Not all night, but I might do it for 15, 20 minutes. And I find it's a really nice stretch while I get the massage, and I like the heat. I like the heat on my back, but I don't love it so much on my knees and my legs. It's just my personal preference. And my feet are always hot. That's why you always see me barefoot. So if I'm using this one, I also love sitting on the couch and I just rest my feet on it. I know it's like the laziest way that you can get anything, but who cares? If you've got neuropathy or you're dealing with, I don't know, a double hip replacement or something, you need to find passive solutions. And any of these are a starting point, and there's something that's going to work with you as you progress and improve. You'll just use them in different ways. I hope that makes sense. So, and again, that's also a lithium battery. So let's get into some other heads here. And then I'm going to get into a few more applications. I don't have a neck here in front of me today, but I'll just show you the head. Many of you have the little Y one that looks like a tuning fork. So this one, it's going to take that pressure and it's going to put it, yes, Carmen's got hers, very similar. So this one, if you've got, I don't like using this one if I'm using the gun myself. I like using this one if I have someone to do it on. I like it for the neck. I do kind of like it a little bit on the forearms. Carmen, if you've got, sometimes the range of motion or the frozen shoulder is restrictive. So if that's an issue for you, sometimes, that's where it's chattery on the teeth, but this one's amazing on the neck too. But it works. But yeah, this one's going to be a little bit more for the neck. And it's also very nice if you've got someone helping you to continue all the way down on either side of the spine. So just little, I kind of do this like little wiggly walking movement as I'm going down. Whatever your flavor, again, I don't like to fit in the box of P1 is best for this and massage head B is best for, it really, your preference is going to vary depending on you, your tolerance, and what you're trying to deal with. So this is not my favorite, but when I do have somebody, this is my favorite up and down the back of the spine. I wish there was something I could drop into a chair that did that same thing. But that's what I use that one for. There's a really itty bitty, this one's got a bit of a rubbery tip on it. This one, even though it's little and strong because of all that energy, when it's situated, the same amount of force is, spread out over a bigger area versus the smaller tip. But this one, I kind of like it in between my finger joints, in between my toes, little nooks and crannies in my knee. I really like this one for that. And some of the kits have one this is got a rubbery tip, but there's a hard tip. Some of the ladies have been using that for their essential oils in and around the necks. Yours is a hard tip. So again, whatever your flavor, usually the bigger the gun, the more the number of toys that come with it, because they got to put a bigger gun in the case. So they got to put more stuff so it doesn't look, is that silly marketing? You get a cute little purse size, and yeah, there's usually only about 3 or 4 because you can't have 20 tips when, they're bigger than the guns. So you'll find there's going to be 2 or 3 go-tos within your kit. And then within your household, maybe your guy likes this one better or your kid likes that one better. Ooh, another one this one is really good for was the shins I was showing you earlier. That's one you can do by yourself too. Anywhere think of this as the one that, jumps over the bone. So that's the spine, the shins, the forearms, depending on you. But if you are prone to bruising, keep in mind, these ones are probably going to leave a mark quicker than these ones. And guess what? If, I get a number of people that'll say, oh my goodness, I was so bruised after using my massage gun and I did everything you told me to the letter, Debbie. And I say, well, really, usually when I get something new that has all these toys with it, you play with it, and half an hour to an hour, 2 hours goes really quick. So it's not uncommon the first couple times you get one of these, not only do you overdo it personally, but you're showing everybody else in the house. So how much therapy did the hand get the first day that you open the new massage gun? So we get excited. That's good. But I'd rather you take that excitement and level it out over 30 days. What is it? 21 days to make or break a habit. So put that energy and excitement into consistent use over the next couple 3 days, or weeks, whatever you're using to treat yourself for. But it's really easy to overdo it. And especially if you're older like myself and you're dealing with arthritic issues in the hands, tendonitis, carpal tunnel, if you get this on Sunday, don't play with it all night if you got to spend 4 hours typing a report on Monday morning. So common sense applies, please. Or if you do, take it with you so you can do recovery. Well, it's easy to overdo it because you don't realize, when you're hanging on to this thing, there's a lot of movements, 35, 40 movements per second, and it's exercise even for your hand. So again, start conservative, 2 to 3 minutes, let's say per area. How many times a day can you use your massage gun? You know what? Common sense applies. I mean, if the same body area, maybe a couple times a day or for a minute or two if symptoms are severe. What you'll find, and the goal, if you're doing it consistently, let's say I'm dealing with a pulled, I don't know, a pulled quad, from running. If you're doing the things you're supposed to do to recover, the gun is going to accelerate the recovery. So once you're recovered, you shouldn't need to use it 5 or 6 or 7 times a day. But you can use it as a warm-up for that preventative piece as well as a recovery. But yeah, if you're dealing with a chronic issue, pain, I don't like to limit you because I'd rather you use a massage gun than take more drugs or Advils, if you will. So couple 3 minutes whenever, tension or symptoms present themselves is absolutely fine. But typically keep it to under, 5 minutes max for that first week or 2, just until you kind of get into the groove of what feels best for you. Remember some of the basics things I talked about at the beginning. So there's amplitude. That's how much it's massaging or how hard it's hitting you. Smaller guns tend to have less, bigger guns tend to have more. Something to keep in mind, you know, good general starting good range is going to be 9 to 11 millimeters. That's going to be probably an average out there. Stall force is, you know, when's the gun going to stop? How hard do I have to press before I beat the gun? People try these things, myself included. So most guns you will not have an issue with, but if you're doing commercial applications, you're applying, you know, maybe you're a therapist or, you know, you're a really strong dude and you're trying to test it. You know, you do lots of big muscle recovery group, you know, maybe go with something with a higher stall force, but it's usually not an issue. It's just a term that you might see when you're comparing some of these. And then the other thing is your speeds or your levels. You know, there's that common misunderstanding. Well, I'm a newbie, so I'm just going to start slow. And we start on these slow, choppy. Those are the speeds that bruise you because you're trying to get something that feels like a massage, but it just really feels like somebody's punching you in the arm or the butt or wherever you're massaging. So just like I advise on your vibration plates, bring it up to a mid-high speed and start by, again, just skimming the surface. I just want to give you that visual once more. Wherever you're massaging, especially if you're dealing with sensitivity, okay? So bring it up to a mid to a high speed and just skim the skin surface. You know, see how it feels. Warm up the area before you try going deep, especially if you're dealing with lots of tension. Then as you get more comfortable, you can hear the sound change, how it's more slapping my skin versus pressing, okay? And give it a minute or two per body part. See how you feel. If you're dealing with restless leg, chronic, you know, all kinds of things can happen with the body before you try to go to sleep. That's why we get bad sleep. So, you know, a minute or two, if you are going to use this as an aid before sleeping, do it about a half an hour before bed is my advice. Sometimes, you know, it feels so good. We go longer than a couple, 3 minutes. You don't want to get so exhilarated and get the blood flow going that you're wide awake now and your body parts are all itchy and you can't sleep for that reason. And, you know, if you have one, take it with you, especially if you find tension builds up in certain body parts, you're dealing with chronic swelling or pain, have it packed with you. You know, you can spot treat throughout the day so that it's not such a big deal at the end of the day when you do get to that self-care. And as I did a little bit with the Vibe machine today, combine it with whatever you do. If you're walking on the treadmill, if you're watching a movie, you know, a lot of the thing about self-care, it sounds so much better than a workout or diet or some of those words, but self-care can be work. It can take time. And many of these tools, if you can commit a minute or two, maybe on a lunch break or, you know, just hanging on to it while you're sitting at your desk, it is going to be the preventative piece. And so the symptoms might be there at the end of the day, but with less severity. You know, they're not building up throughout the day. You're breaking them down a little bit. One last specific thing I want to talk about before we get to questions is applications, because I know it's going to come up, is lipomas, lumps and bumps. Yes, yes, yes. I have a little bit of a reputation out there for anything non-surgical. You know, there's enough trouble trying to get diagnosed and funding for some conditions out there, but many of the gals in my disorders group are using the guns to target lipomas. And, you know, as long as you know what you are dealing with, again, some of them can be more painful than others, but some of them are finding it softening. Some of it is finding they're breaking into smaller fragments. So if you are looking at for some surgery or you're not necessarily, you know, you want to get prepared for it, or if you've just tried everything else, this is an option to consider. I would recommend speaking with some of the gals in the group that are doing this, but we've had some really, really good results. And I hate to sound like a broken record. The ones that seem to be seeing the good results aren't being rock stars. You know, start with those basic guidelines, build up tolerance, but it's the consistency, doing these things regularly. You know, maybe it's just because it's bringing circulation and good stuff to the area. Maybe the gun really is blasting things apart and making things more manageable for your body to address. I don't know. There's no studies out there, but you know, if we waited for the science and never experimented with some of these great tools, we'd all be suffering a lot more than we really are. So thank you for listening to my excessive ramble today. I'm going to move up and I'm going to put on my broken glasses because they're the only ones I have with me. And I'm going to pray they stay on my face. I'm going to bring this back up. And I just want to see, there's a few of you left here. I haven't put everybody to sleep. If you have massage gun questions or something about yours particular, or something you've maybe been reluctant to because you're not sure about things, please feel free to ask me your questions now. Or if there's just maybe perhaps something you want to share about how fabulous your own experimentation has been, that's completely fine too. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add to my ramblings today? Don't have to, no pressure. It's completely fine if you don't. I hope.
What is this tool for?
Let me see which one. I don't have that tool.
Yeah. And it's weird. It's a rubbery tip. It's rubbery feeling.
How thick?
So I wasn't sure. I don't know. I haven't seen it with any other kits.
Feel between toes, or
yeah.
Or between fingers, or I don't know. I don't have that.
Very, yeah.
Have you tried playing with it at all?
No, I found it in the kit, and I sat there and I looked at it a couple of times because I used the other bits.
Yeah.
And it's the one that looks like a fingertip.
Yeah, the little one with the rubbery tip. Yep.
Yeah, the fingertip one.
That's one of my faves too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one like that. It almost looks like a little bit of a pie scraper or something.
Yeah, like a little wedge.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hi, Sean. Or
Hi.
Shannon. That's Shannon.
It's like Shannon, but that's fine. I was just wondering if you've seen one like that. That's in my Sonic.
Oh, you've got knobs? Mine doesn't have knobs. Mine has like little, right? And depending on what brand you have, everybody's going to have their own little marks, right? So this, I don't have the Sonic. Mine is the Sonic Mini, their older model.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a few more, and some of them, like I say, some of them have more variety than others. My personal, and this is completely pulling this out of my butt, why I think it's not completely a flat surface. If you're working with somebody that's really sweaty, and I think it just gives a little bit of somewhere for the air, or this, I don't know, but I do notice the metal one that I have, if I'm using it with essential oils, it feels, I almost like the little bit of texture, like yours had bubbles. So it's just a different feel for me.
Yeah,
but this one isn't so good for lotions because there's nothing, it just spreads it. This, I find it sticks around a little bit longer. So you might like something like that to keep, I don't know, the oils in place, or
I just
use that one?
Legs here.
You like it on the outside of the calf?
The back of the calf and the two sides. What you said about putting your legs over the vibration and doing both sides of the front felt great. I did it while you were doing it.
It just, I hate to say, we live in a world of hurry it up, but there's days where dinner's going, kids are running, phone's ringing, and I'm not as bad as you guys, but some of this stuff accumulates. So you got to invest some time doing it. These are ways you can reduce the time and, task for you. Sometimes we are dealing with other issues, and, you can't last 5 minutes, 10 minutes, so that's just, and if you're down there doing it already, just combine. And that, maybe you're sitting on it, you're kind of just sort of whole humming when you're doing those passive ones. So you may as well hang on to the gun. Cool. And how often do you use yours, Shan? I'm just curious.
So I don't use the gun as much because I found that it was hurting. I thought we were supposed to press a little harder, but it was very helpful, your description in the beginning of do kind of what you can and ease into it. Yeah. But I felt like while I was on, I have the vibration plate that sort of goes back and forth. I was on the floor doing it. I found it hurt less with the gun while I had my legs on the vibration for some reason. If that sounds weird, it does to me.
Those many things that maybe sometimes I do things on camera. Like sometimes it works. I don't know if it's just giving you more blood flow or if it's like dancing, you're not really thinking about watching your feet because you're doing something else. But you got to experiment with what works for you. I've had some warming too much, so it depends.
Yeah, my legs are always cold. They don't generate any heat whatsoever. Even if the rest of me is hot, the legs are cold where the lipedema is, but my legs are warm right now.
So what you almost needed by the sounds of it is more intensity. So you know what I'd say, did you stand on the machine before, or did you just?
Oh yeah, I've been trying to stand on the machine for the 10 minutes on high every day. It feels nice. I try and stand and look out the window and watch the birds. But
a challenge for you
combined
this
was
week,
nice.
instead of going right to the standing, start with that. So do the massage on the legs. Make sure you do the feet too, right? It's like camping. You know, the feet are always cold in the top of the head because that's where all the heat escapes. So warm the feet up and the legs, then do the standing. And I'd be curious to see if you stay warmer longer. When you say high, are you talking high speed or wide feet?
Wide feet and high speed, because I want to move the most.
So where do you go from there?
That's it. That's all I I get on. It goes 10 minutes and I get off.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot. There is a mentality where wider is better. And that, you know, that's what's in the marketing and has been for 20 years. Think more functional. So bring the feet more like hip width apart. And instead of standing, try this. If you're not already, and if you are already, you know, the next progression might be very slow. You know, you could do some gun action while you're, right?
Oh, okay.
But what you're gonna find is you're gonna maybe only last, if you start doing that, you're gonna be like maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. So we have this mentality, well, the longer I do it, the better results I'm gonna get. The more results I'm gonna get. Now that might be true if you're just looking at moving lymph and it's just a feel-good thing. You know, I can't tell you not to do it for 20 minutes. You just won't talk to me anymore, right? You don't have to. But that will instead of maintaining and just giving you the feel good, that's what's going to help with strength, better bone density. If weight loss is a goal, that's going to burn more calories. But you won't last as long because it's more of a fitness position, right? But I think if you warm your legs up before you do some standing stuff, I think you'll find you're standing more, you won't need to do it as long. Does that make sense? To get the same effect?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So try it. I know I'm sitting here on my feet because it's flip-flop season almost here, but I hate socks. My feet are like hooves. I'd rip them right now. It's terrible.
Oh, you're lucky. I wear the compression and it's over my feet all the time.
No, that's got to change. That's got to change. I got to at least bring you down a grade or at least get you some. And whenever you start getting cold, get on it, Shan. Like that, you know, I don't care if you're on it once an hour for 2 minutes. If it's just to get those feet going warm, crank it right up and, you know, just rock forward and back or massage them. That's the spot treatments that if life allows, I recommend.
Right. Well, I work from home, so I could probably take a few minutes break.
Weight bearing, standing on it is going to, like, it's nice to just sit and put it under the desk, but it's the body mass going into it that really forces the feet to function more, if that makes sense.
Yep. In
my experience. Okay. And I cut Carmen off. We got to figure out what that is. So you have to play with that flat tip, or we have to ask the LifePro. Is it a LifePro gun?
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Sonic.
Maybe could you imagine if somebody actually made the lipedema applicator and somebody actually knew what the condition was? No. I'm thinking, like, is it like a scraper? Like, I need my massage therapist to start putting on their creative thinking brains there.
Yeah.
We have a couple of new folks here. Carmen, I haven't talked to you personally since we had some Canadian initiatives in the fall, but how are you liking your gun? Do you find you're using it regularly?
At least a couple of times a week.
Awesome.
I use the plate as much as possible. I go ahead and I start off with the standing position. Then I work my way into squatting and then planking and then sitting and then back up to standing, all within the 10 minutes, so that I'm just working.
That's a good example. And you said it already. I was going to put you on spotlight and say, Carmen sent me some pictures the other day. And not only was she doing a plank, it was like a real plank on her toes and on her hands. So yeah. I did some ramblings the other day. I don't like forearms on the machine. And I think sometimes you have a bad experience, so you don't plank. But plank's one of those intimidating but terribly effective exercises that's going to work more muscle groups and burn more calories, but it's really a functional thing, from lifting up your children to, you know, shoveling snow. And I was just blown away with these awesome planks. So within 10 minutes.
Because of my Ehlers, I found out that I had dislocated the second rib in the back, and my massage therapist had to pop it back in place.
How long ago was that?
Last week.
Oh,
Last week. So
wow.
he's going ahead and he's saying, no, keep going with the vibration. You're doing good. So I said, okay,
Awesome.
I'll keep going.
So you probably was it affecting your breathing, or how did you realize that something was on there?
Everything felt grindy. Yeah, it was uncomfortable to move my shoulder and everything. And after he released it, he went ahead and he had to open up the shoulder blade. He had to open it up and then press the rib back in place. But that's all part of the Ehlers, is stuff popping out of place. So once he did that,
thank you for kind of bringing that up, whether you meant to or not. One of the big things with muscle tension, which many of you deal with, and then some, you know, severe muscle it can cause alignment issues. And you know, sometimes if you're dealing with hypermobility or like Carmen has mentioned, you don't discount, like if you're using a machine, you know, regularly, like 3-4 times a week, and something consistent, if the machine isn't giving you that relief after a few weeks of, you know, there's probably a little bit more going on. But sometimes we just, you know, it's probably just blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, and if you have alignment issues, you know, and this is where, as I said, use your gun throughout the day for those spot treatments. You know, up here when chiropractic treatments used to be covered, I'd go all the time because it was awesome, but they're not covered anymore. And I have the best chiro in the world, but it's you know, with gas prices and a fee nowadays, I tend to not go as often. And I know when my knee's out, that's when the sciatic and everything else builds. And all I need to do is commit a little me time. We have a tendency to leave things to the point where we have to address them versus the maintenance piece. So listen to your target points. And that's interesting. You know, sometimes with the ribs, it is a breathing thing, but definitely a posture thing. And that would have affected some of your upper body stuff for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Her planks were awesome. I just have to say that. So where you start and where you progress, you know, whether it's the 5 minutes.
I started only being able to stand or to sit with my feet on the plate in the chair. And now I'm up to being able to move all over. So that's really good. It's
going to be a very different summer for you.
Yep.
It is. And the gun, have you ever, I know that because you do, Carmen does a lot of taxing, you know, how many bazillion movements a day with her hands and the mouse. But have you noticed any improvement specifically in the hands and the wrists?
It's not, it's a lot better. I don't get as much issues with my hands, but then I also use this puppy whenever I can. If my hands start really getting tight or cold, that's what I use to get my hands going again. But
that's the ultimate. That's the leg wrap. That's under the. We did a little yap about that one. It's the compression. Not under the compression garments. It's kind of its own thing under hand massagers. But yes, you know, I'm not here to say what you should do. I'm here to present you options. It really, you know, whether it's massage guns or vibration machines, there's so many tools out there nowadays, variety. You find something. And if you're, you know, look at your life and be honest. If you're passive and you're looking for something that's going to do it for you versus something that's going to take some time and regular commitment on your part, some of those compression devices, like, you know, I understand you have a long day. The last thing, Deb, you hold a massage gun after I get it. Even me, you know, there's no reason I couldn't have put my legs into those boots last night in front of the TV. I was too lazy to walk back downstairs to get them, right? Life sometimes gets in the way. So good for you. And many of these things, if you are an office jockey, you know, not everybody gets to spend their entire day at home. You know, and a lot of times it's that workplace, those repetitive tasks, the lifting, the typing, the hunched over the desk. If you have a massage gun, you know, the number one reason I love them is whether it's a purse size or whether it's a bigger one, there's kind of always on the room on the seat beside you on the way to work. So don't be afraid. Like I say, even if you're just passively hanging on to it throughout the course of the day, you know, there's things that you can do to make the latter part of your day a lot better. So that's cool. And yes, Carmen's come a long way. We need to have a shake chat of our own. I haven't done one of those in quite some time. I've still got Connie, Inga, Kathy. Is there anyone else that has Debbie questions? If not at this point, hi, Sandy. Hi, how are you? If you have a question for me, just unmute yourself.
There we go. I couldn't find the unmute button.
No problem.
I do have a question for you. I have had my knees replaced 2 summers ago, both knees, and was diagnosed with lipedema right after the second knee was replaced. I bought myself a vibration plate, and my knees hurt horribly using the vibration plate.
Okay.
I tried using it for about 8 weeks. I watched your videos, went medium speed, and my feet were closer together. I still cannot use the vibration plate without pain.
Can I ask, before you introduce the vibe, how did recovery go with the knees?
The first one was a piece of cake. I was back at work at like 12 days. I went back to work. The second one, 2 months, and I still couldn't walk. It was hard. But the second one is the one that I got diagnosed with the lipedema, and my leg just swelled. It got twice as big as it was before the surgery. And now I've got lipedema all over my body. I'm growing. Just growing and growing.
Before diagnosis, and you know, it sounds like you had a lot of things happen in a very short period.
I did.
Have you tried the machine? Like, have you just done standing? Were you sitting? Have you just
I started out standing, and then one of your videos said, if that bothers you, try sitting. So I did like 5 weeks of sitting, and I only did maybe 5 minutes a day.
And you were still having pain?
Such pain that I couldn't walk. I mean, it was that bad.
And I don't want to deflect and say, oh, this never happens, but it is rare. And sometimes like walking around and doing your day-to-day, just general activity, do you find that there is pain throughout the course of the day, or is it specific to the machines?
Off and on the course of the day, yes. So I do think it's the knees and not the machine, but is there a way around that?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You know, the willing is very different than, you know, just I want to move on to other things. What is your 9 to 5? Are you working? Are you standing? What's that look like?
I'm working for 2 more months and then I'm retiring.
Congratulations. So are you seated or standing?
Sorry, 52 years as a nurse, and I'm ready to.
Okay. Now there's more thing filled in. I would suggest a couple things. Are you doing anything else therapy wise or exercise besides the machines that I'm not aware of?
I do a little bit of walking, but I can just barely do a quarter mile before my legs give out. I do get into, my husband bought me a jacuzzi tub. So I get in the tub and I do a lot of bicycling in the tub. I can do an hour's worth of bicycling with no pain in the tub. So I do that. Probably
I would like to suggest that maybe, and I've just started speaking with you, and I would like to maybe speak with you a little more personally, if you wouldn't mind to allow. Knees are it's kind of like the caramel mystery for me. That's how I got into this, and it's just really rare that I can't navigate, but it does honestly, sometimes maybe we need to try a couple of things before we find what's right for you. To me, do you also feel the stability just isn't quite there yet? Do you trust them?
Absolutely. I lose my balance quite frequently, and it surprises me.
Good. Okay. So that's good. That's good. Perhaps if you don't mind afterwards, just drop me a personal message, and we'll maybe try and figure out a time tomorrow or Friday, depending on your schedule, I just have a few more questions.
Okay.
That's more specific to the machine. And I'm just going to wrap this up, but yes, if you're willing, I think there's probably a couple more suggestions that I'd like to try. And then if not, to me personally, when we're in this situation, I've been doing this so long. If my little tweaks can't figure it out, to me, there's something else, whether it's a weakness in muscle, whether it's You know, I have found all kinds of things present themselves in a deficiency after a surgery. But maybe we just need to degress a bit, if you're willing. So we'll talk about
I
it.
am
And it's
very willing.
Sandy, right?
Yes,
It comes
Debbie.
with Matt and Sandy. I assume you're not Matt.
I am not Matt. He's my
Okay.
better half, though.
Awesome. Awesome. And I also see, I think Connie had a question for me too.
I am having the exact same problem. I don't have the vibration machine, but I have lipedema and Derkham's disease. I didn't know I had lipedema until after I had both knees replaced.
Interesting.
And I am in so much pain right now that I am losing my mobility completely and being able to walk. So now, you know,
When
I'm
did you have
using my
surgery?
surgery went great, you know, but the lipedema has taken over around my knees since it has gotten a lot worse since, you know, the surgery. So now that has really stopped, and I've got huge lipomas now all around my knees.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure out if, you know, I use my my gun every day, all the time, but I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can do something that'll break up some of that
Yeah.
and help that, you know, to where my knees won't be in such pain.
When was your surgery, Connie? How recent?
One of them, one knee was about 4 years ago, and the other one a couple of years ago.
So nothing within the last 3 to 4 months. Okay.
Mm-mm.
Just as a general rule, and hopefully you're not in that situation. There's a lot of things I do like right after surgery, you know, more of a therapeutic thing, but
Mhm.
sometimes the reason I drill you about how the recovery went is if there was complications or other things discovered, you know, it's kind of a double whammy. So the doctor do you have a qualified doctor you're dealing with for the lipedema piece?
No, not really. I live in a real small town, and there's not anybody around here. And I have been to see Dr. Herbst before, you know, but that's been several years ago.
So you have been diagnosed properly. And then the Derkham's,
Mhm.
there's going to be even less people, right?
Right.
We did an info session this week on it. So there's other good groups out there. You know, so you know, the information, the gun, I know that you're getting relief probably in different ways, but how could you ramp that up? A vibration machine, I gotta prove myself right here with Sandy first in your mind, but the reason that many in this group, and Dr. Herbst, I kind of met her, and I was a vibration person before I knew about lipedema myself, you know,
Yeah.
but once I understood that these conditions existed, it made sense with a lot of the clients and why I wasn't, you know, able to get the traditional results or why the weight was coming. So what I would suggest is just a very brief understanding. The gun is going to give you relief. I don't know if you're doing the lipomas yourself, but a lot of them use it just for general muscle pain. The machine is going to give you more of a total body effect.
Yeah.
So depending on your mobility, you know, what I suggested with Sandy, because we've got some pain we haven't quite figured out, bearing less weight. So sitting in a stool, I can give you a visual here. And especially if it's just a post-surgery situation, or maybe you're getting ready for surgery. You know, a lot of people just can't bear weight for long periods with fatigue. So just sitting in a stool and it's just about getting that lymph and that circulation going, because if you've digressed and you're carrying more mass, you're sitting more, you know, it's hard to do the traditional activities. Circulation, lots of ways that it moves through, you know, activating the pump, which is our heart, but our lymph only moves when we move. And if moving has become this huge task for you, like many of it has, you know, there's other ways, you know, you can get the lymph moving, but it's really demotivating, you know, if it's, oh, you got to do a workout, or so this is, you know, some do exercise and some do more, like Carmen was talking about, but many didn't start there. You know, if you're not, it's about moving and feeling better. So, I mean, in a perfect world, you'd have all the tools and all the money in the world to pay for them. But the vibration machine is more of it can be exercise, but from a lymph and what you're dealing with specifically in this community, it's more of a total body effect. but you may be like Sandy to a degree where, you're only able to bear weight for short periods and
Right. I can't stand up or
yeah,
just,
so
I
seated
can't
would be
stand up for
ideal,
long.
right under the desk or something.
Yeah.
But I would be curious to know, this is the sad part that I deal with this in this community is there's a lot of people that, what is the plan? What is the direction? How do I better myself? And thank God you at least have a diagnosis. Many do not.
Right.
But none of these tools are funded by your insurance company and many of the doctors that are using them, even within this community, as brilliant as they are with lipedema and type things, nobody's an expert with the machines. It's not a cookie cutter thing because you guys are all so different with your symptoms, and every day is different sometimes too, right? Have you ever hurt yourself with your gun? Have you ever overdone it? Bruised yourself?
No, not really. I vary the pressure and everything, but thank
The
goodness.
tolerance is good. What about your wind? Are you fatigued easily?
No, not that much. No.
Is there anything you're doing like therapy or beside like swimming at the pool or anything you're doing right now?
No,
Okay.
I'm not.
It's been a tough year for a lot of people, regardless of whether the desire or facilities are there. A lot of people haven't had access to these things. The last couple of years have been different, to say the least. And what I have found with a lot of my gals, I don't deal with just this community, but I deal with a lot of special needs children as well. And the machine, a lot of them are probably using it more than maybe what the book outlines, but sometimes it's something to do because we are so stagnant and we're inactive when we're dealing with these conditions. And up here in Canada where I'm at, we're locked in because of cold temperatures for 4 or 5 months of the year. So something to consider. I mean, I don't know where you're at physically, but if you've never tried a machine, it's kind of one of, you like it or you don't. Most people do like it, but if there's a fear or you've had a bad experience, sometimes it's better starting in a chair and just get used to how it feels for your body before you progress to some of the other things. And Sandy, there's always a workaround, but if there is something, we'll get to the bottom of it. I appreciate you willing to work with me on that. And you might be different, Connie. Sometimes with knees, there's always a good side and a bad side, first of all, but sometimes, a lunge is a better exercise than a squat, or sometimes it's, just step. I did one this morning. There's this poor little dude. The doctors tell him that, he can't jump. So he's not, these markers that the doctors give you. So they tell this 3-year-old kid, well, he can't jump yet. So if you can't jump by the time you're 3, you're not gonna. And I said to him, you could jump, can't you, Billy? His name is Billy. And he'd jump off the machine, but he wouldn't jump on the floor. And his mom was like, I wonder if I could get him to do this for the doctor. And I said, well, a lot of it, how many people have asked him in the last week between therapists and doctors to show he doesn't want to. It's not that he can't. It's sometimes I just don't want to. I know I got to do squats and push-ups. And so if you use your machines and your tools, just even feel better. Sometimes we beat ourselves up about, I could see, I got to do my 10 minutes today. Well, why don't you just do 2? Or why don't you just do 1? And, even that is still from a therapeutic, the lymph, the swelling, sometimes that's what slows us down from doing. We know how to do these things. But the discipline, the motivation, sometimes it sucks. You went in to get your knees replaced and you ended up with something else.
Right.
It's really, and the stories in this community every day about people that they're walking in even now with that standard of care and Dr. I would love, I can text Karen right now, but do you think the doctor standing beside me will even take the call?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? It's just so I'm feisty and frustrated about the machines and advocating for them because it's just like lipedema. The doctors have never heard of it and they all think I'm crazy, just like you guys.
Yeah. Well, I also had surgery on my neck last year and it caused lymphedema now in my head and my neck. So I'm trying to use my gun now
for
to
this
try
area.
to get the lymph flowing better in my neck too, but there's pain there all the time.
The trick with the neck, and I found this actually more with a lot of my guys than my ladies, treating the neck requires these. So give the arms themselves, the hands, give them a little attention before you try. Like this one side, I've got a really bad, I don't know, something I did in high school in track and field and didn't deal with at the time. But you know, this one I can go all day long, but this one I can only go so far. But I find if I loosen up my shoulder and my wrist first, it's like kind of, what if you've ever watched any of my workouts, I always do my cheesy pelvic tilts before I do my squats, because then my squats are better and my range of motion looks better on camera. So just like with this, if you want to, especially because once you start going, there's nothing worse than your arms giving out, but your neck's not done yet, if you know what I mean. So give these attention and warm the tools up, your arms, before you try the neck. And that took me, I'm always too short on the time, so I just kind of get to it. But what I found I was doing, my neck was great, but my elbow was starting to bug me because I like to really like give her. Oh, so maybe I warm up my elbow first. And I get about 2-3 more inches in my range on this one side. This one I've got better range, but this one I'm stronger. But you can never have it all, right?
Right.
So anyways, just my little bit of how I relate to you. And it's the same with my lower body, with my sciatic. It's always on the one side. It's always because even though that's my bad knee, the one that I was supposed to have surgery on, because the other one's been doing all the work for all the years, it's now the bad knee. So even though the one's better, my brain still doesn't trust it, and it always shifts the weight to the one side. So and like you with the rib, over time you find, it's been a while, I probably need to go into that next level of treatment. And a lot of times, even after you've gone for an adjustment, these are really nice because the muscles have been, especially the little muscles, those micro ones that do the work when the big muscles poop out. Sometimes after you've gone for a chiro appointment or before you go, just warming up those areas that he has trouble with to bring the temperature up and loosen up the area. My chiro, if I'm really crazy and busy and I haven't done a session, part of the reason I do all these sessions is then I got to do the work and stay fit for you guys, right? It's my accountability. But he can always tell if I've done time on the machine before I come to see him, like night and day. He's like, you should have done a quick session. Like I'm easier to work on, but well, no, that's why I pay you, is to give me the VIP. But many of my chiros and therapists that get this just use it for a minute or two before the gun or before the hyperbaric or before the manual lymphatic drainage. Same reason that you're combining things now where you can. So I'm rambling into your dinner hour here, but I don't want either of you to beat yourselves up. And I hate to say it, but it's a common thing where I'm seeing, because I'm not the expert, I don't think anybody can be as fluent as some of the specialists, and even they're learning every day. But I see a lot of people getting that diagnosis post-surgery, and I think there's this mentality that it caused, but I think sometimes when you get into surgery situations, I don't know if you're seeing better doctors. I do know the vascular surgeons, and some of them tend to be better versed at the diagnosis in the first place. Maybe it's because you got a different set of eyes looking at you. You see how broken mine are? I got to get those fixed. But keep at it, and know it's not your fault, but know that there's a whole bunch of us here too that, some days it's just harder to brush it off than others, and say some days it's easier to do what we know we're supposed to do than others. But that's why I say give yourself a break. If for you, Connie, it's just putting your feet on the machine and moving some stuff uphill, at least, because the legs are really the worst of it, especially if you're having to sit a lot. I've got another lady right now. She's just it's bulging discs, so sitting hurts and standing hurts and everything. Like, you just can't win sometimes. So the more that you can do, even though it might not have as much benefit as going for a big jog or a swimming at the pool, you're still going to get a lot of benefit just by getting that lymph detoxification, all that soft stuff done, and energy, the mental clarity. And it really does. I'm not going to cry because it's been a tough week with some health issues with clients of mine, but we get down on ourselves, and it's a lazy way to just have a mood lift too. I know that seems silly, but We are our own worst enemies. Oh, I didn't do this today. And oh, we'll beat ourselves up till the cows come home, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the doctors aren't, how do I put it, the best cheerleaders for us either. You know,
Yeah.
if I have one more doctor throw the food guide, like,
Oh my goodness.
you know, half of them wouldn't know a carrot if it hit them upside the head, no offense. One of the big things I talk about in my pediatric is constipation. I had a mom last week that her doctor, he wanted to remove 6 inches of her lower colon because he hasn't pooped in 8 days. And I said, give me 1 day, give me 1 day. And he sat on it for about an hour and a half. And he's pooped every single day since. Now, when they're little, it's different than you guys or some of my seniors. You know, mom can just pick them up and put them on the machine. Or a lot of my moms will sit on it and they'll sit on top of them. But kids aren't scared of it. They don't have doctors and everybody in their brain. We feel we need permission before we do everything. And we don't listen sometimes. You know, if it feels good, do more of it. If it doesn't feel good, then try something else. You know, that's as difficult as it is sometimes. And, you know, when I first got these, I thought I knew everything about them, but it wasn't until I really started playing with myself and on my dog and on my kids that I figured out it feels better to go faster, but you wouldn't think that. Or it feels better not to press in so hard, but you would think, well, that's what you do when you know, all these, I didn't know any of this stuff until I bruised myself quite a bit. Right. Anyways, that's my ramble. Shan, I love your orange walls. Do you have a question? Do you have a question for me?
No, I was just going to add that, I think that because these are situations are so different to doctors, they sort of, we beat ourselves up and we want a guideline of how many times should we, or did we, or we did it. But the doctors themselves sort of maybe us.
Absolutely.
Like, oh, you know, you probably have bad veins. And I was like, but my feet aren't swelling. So they kind of maybe you. We're looking for guides. They're looking for guides. We're all looking for guides and none of us have any.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of our ability to critically think, you know, everything in the last 20, 30 years has been so convenient and so packaged and stamped that, you know, we don't think about what we're putting in our mouths sometimes until we have a problem or we, you know, the biggest thing is, you know, what do I do on these machines for lipedema? Or how do I use a gun for lipedema? And if I lined up the 6,000 on my page, everybody had, you're all into, you know, this one's also got rheumatoid and that one's got MS and this one fell off her bicycle this morning. But, you know, it's like anything else in life until you're dealing with it or it's right at your front door. And you just said it beautifully, Shan. You know, it's the maybe syndrome because the personal experience is lacking. You know, the empathy is there, I think, in a lot of cases, but until you go through it yourself, you know, I don't think the empathy is the same. And, you know, for a doctor in today's world, whether it's in a book or not, you know, they get their info off the news just like we do. It's all the time they have. You know what I mean? So that's cool. You're lovely, by the way. I really do like your orange walls. Someday I'll be brave. And when I don't have children, I'll actually have some color in my life. But do you use massage?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. And what's your favorite reason? What are you using it for?
So my lipedema is very painful in my lower legs, not
okay.
as higher legs. I actually have lipolymphedema, but
okay.
And so I use the massage gun on the sides and the backs of my calves. It's almost like if you ever have a crick in your neck and it hurts, but it feels good at the same time if someone massages it.
Yeah.
It's like that. Painful, but it's the feel good painful.
I know it hurts so good, I call it.
Right.
Like the John Mellencamp song. Do you, how's your upper body strength? Like, can you get up and down on the ground? No issue?
Yeah, no issue.
This is where tolerance, and where's my roller? Hang on, all my torture tools. If you have the ability to roll, you know, so that's a vibrating roller. This is the Walmart value roller. I use these on the machine And I like literally hold my body up and roll the calves. I used to do back in the day when I was trying to be a fitness chick in this world and gave up because, you know, it's most people are dealing with something. I used to park on the grass at all these big Ironman as a recovery station. You know, I can get a lot of people through a couple machines in 2 hours, but we'd always roll the shins and the calves but you require the upper body strength to kind of maneuver yourself around. But if you do that, you know, a lot of times rolling, women don't last because it takes a while and the arms give out. But by adding the plate, it ramps things up, or using a vibrating roller itself, you harness the benefits you've already known with vibration, but you're using your body weight to get like deeper, if that makes sense.
Over on your hands, or are you on your hands?
Okay, everybody could laugh at my improv here. I'll show you with this one so I don't screw it up. So this is on the plate. Don't use like your physio foam noodle. They're too dense. This is a swimming pool noodle. It's got a little squish because when the vibration's added, it's just about it incorporates the vibration. You'll feel it, whereas the harder ones will just bounce all over the place. They're too dense. So all I'm doing with my upper body is pushing forward, and you see what I'm doing?
Oh, okay.
Or if you want to do the sides, you kind of turn on the sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really depends on you. And, you know, you might even want to just, you know, if you don't have the upper body strength, do one area, sit, move up a little bit, you know, do it in intervals. Remember your direction, you know, when you're doing these kind of things, right? Pool noodles are also really good for like those areas that don't lay flat on the machine. So the back of the ankle, those pockets of deposits in the knees, under the kneecaps, the top of the ankles. Some of my folks will put like a pillow especially for you with the bad knees, right? Just so you can get those body parts. You see, I just got it wedged under the top of my ankles. You're only limited by your imagination and your range of motion. Maybe a yoga or a Pilates step just to give you a little more surface in front of the machine, but probably things you have around the house already. Just an idea.
That actually looked like it would feel really good because a lot of the pain is in the front of my shins. But
it's gonna hurt like hell, but it sounds like you're doing it to yourself already.
Yep.
Many of you are in this community. Like you guys have tolerance. You have tolerance. There's no doubt. But it doesn't mean you should suffer all the time. So, you know, that there's lots of these tools out there. And I think the mentality with these guns, I don't want to say brands, but there is like certain brands out there that are $600 or $700. But, you know, you see these big sweaty commercials where it's like, you know what I mean? We're shown to do these things because it's in the marketing. It's just like people wide on the machines. I can't tell you how many hundreds of trade shows I've done where I've walked to the competition's booth and done a demo and their boss is like, what? Because if you're hurting people, nobody's coming to my booth either. Like it used to drive me crazy because there's people that have vertigo because they sit there and hammer with their feet wide and their legs locked for 10 minutes. And you think they're going to take a second try. It doesn't matter what I say. You know what I mean? So people with bad knees, you know, you know your limits, but sometimes when we see these miracle machines, we forget and we do it anyways. And then you pay the price. And so that's cool. I'm glad that you already found your hack. And I wish there was a blueprint, and that's why I just have to do more videos kind of every week. There's been a ton of massage gun videos lately, and I think it's that time of year where people are starting to get outside. You know, I've really been combining some of my stuff in sessions, and, you know, you can combine this with anything that you're doing really. But it's a convenient on the go. So for those of you, for sure, you got 2 months till retirement, or, you know, if you can take it with you and treat yourself during the day, do it. And then when you're, you know, retired or at home more often, you know, ideally, yeah, you'd have access to all of this stuff all the time, but that's not reality. And we'll have a separate chat on the knee. Connie, I'll keep you posted on the knee, but if you do decide this is something you're going to here's usually what I recommend if you want to try it and you're in a small town where you
Yeah.
can't get a machine. Most companies have a 30-day money back guarantee.
Okay.
So order the damn thing, but
Mhm.
don't leave it in the box 29 days and then try it. Give it an honest try.
Okay.
It happens, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I better watch one of Debbie's sessions. Oh my God, Debbie talks for like an hour and a half. I'll never get through this and then try it, right? So as soon as you get it, just set it somewhere you're going to use it. Like don't
Yeah.
put it in the basement because you're not going to go down there 4 times a day. And even if it's just putting your feet on it and play with the speeds, some of the lessons I've taught you, and give it an honest try, couple 3 times a day, you'll notice something right away. But what I will caution you, don't get cocky. You know, just even like with this, just because you're
Yeah.
feeling better, I don't want you painting the house and doing laundry. And we have a tendency to overdo it when we do feel better. So just chill and stick with it. I think you'll find by the end of the first week, you'll have some improvements. They're going to vary for everybody. If the knees are hurting you, let me know. I have yet to
Okay.
figure out if this is the case, but sometimes with the knees, the elbows, you know, those smaller muscle groups, we think of them as joints, not muscle groups. And when we start exercising, if it was your quads and your glutes, you'd be like, oh, I did a good workout. But if it's your knee or your wrist, you know, when those areas get sore, sometimes we associate it more with something being wrong than maybe it's just deconditioned muscles that are actually a little sore. And we
Yeah.
start doing it. So sometimes you gotta, you know, it's usually by week 2. If it's more than just sore muscles, the pain will still be there. But if you just 2 to 3 minutes and work through, you'll find probably within about a week, it's giving more relief than presenting pain. And honestly, if it is still presenting pain after a week or 2, to me, the machines are kind of a diagnostic tool. You know, if I can't fix it or get improvement in some, usually, and it's usually an alignment thing, or, you know, maybe there's something else going on. So
Is there something that I should look for particularly in a vibration
just look
plate?
in basic use. Like there's a lot of fancy machines out there, but you don't need to break the bank. And if you are your sole person, you know, sometimes going with a fancier machine just because you can afford it, it's not as fun to move around. So if you are looking at putting it under the desk and maybe
Mhm.
progressing to standing, probably an entry level, you don't look like you exceed a couple 100 pounds by any means, Connie. So the Waver Mini I like the Mini. It's my mom uses it. It's not as wide, but it's a little lighter, fits a little
Yeah.
bit under a desk. The main machine most gals are using is the Waver. So it's I'd have to double check. I think it's like 150 or 160 bucks.
Okay.
They have other ones that have multiple motions or different things, but all of my coachings are in the basic movement because that's how you walk. It's about getting you functional first. You know,
Okay.
and if in 2 years you're walking around with a 6-pack and a tank top, then we can talk about fancier stuffs in another model. But I think you've got some recovery and some progression first. I don't
Okay.
think you need to spend a fortune, but you know,
I got mine on Amazon used and it was more than 50% off.
so there, you know, and
Okay.
sometimes they do have deals on Amazon. If you're in the States, the one company that I'm showing off my stuff for, there, I work with a lot of medical companies too, but they start at like $1,000 up. So most of the machines with LifePro, I recommend. Why I recommend LifePro is their warranty. I'll admit it. I was the supplier for years and years, and I don't want to be fixing belts and warranties. And sometimes things happen. You know, sometimes your dog pees on it too. So if there is a warranty issue, it's a lifetime warranty. And what I find with this group, even though there's recommended guidelines, most are using their stuff more than the average person because it's your self-care, it's your so yeah, I like the fact that you buy it once kind of thing, if you know what I mean. And that's so what I'll do after this gets processed and posted, I usually put a couple of links. And if you have any questions, feel free to question and ask them, shop around. But what you're looking for is oscillating or
Okay.
teeter-totter motion. Their Waver, the Mini, I think is even cheaper. I think it's like 129. And then I've
Okay.
got a code for 10% off if you're interested. Check Marketplace. You know, sometimes you find them for 50, 60 bucks. If you're looking used, make sure if there's a remote. Most machines have a remote. there's nothing worse than you get a deal and then you're bending.
Yeah.
Well, once your mobility gets better, I always just use my big toe. But if that might not be, if I want you to turn it up a bit, I don't want you, 50 times. I know, but I used to buy a lot of used ones to test them. It was in a former life, and they always lose the remote. So just if you're getting a good deal, that's great. But if you're spending close to 150 to $200, you may as well go new. There's
Okay.
lots of deals out there, and they're not really driven by price. It's like Advil. So there's Advil, the brand, and then there's like the Value Drug Mart brand. Do you know what I mean? It's all acetaminophen, or it's all ibuprofen. So same with vibration machines. Many of them are same machine, different sticker. LifePro's taken it a little bit further in components, but they've got people you can actually talk to. So sometimes if you're buying new, make sure, especially on Amazon and eBay, make sure there's actually a company behind it, right? Like if you had a problem, it doesn't matter if they have a lifetime warranty. Does anybody answer the phone now? Is there a website? So use your caution, but if it's brand new and it's under $100, do a little more diligence. Used, you never know what you might find.
Okay. Thank you.
And same with the guns, right?
Yeah. I have the
Any
LifePro
guns
gun,
for
and I really like it.
I
I love my gun.
See, because you use them, right?
Mhm.
I know. Okay, thank you guys. I'm sorry I rambled so long today. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you had a little bit of fun too.
Thank you. You taught me a lot. It was helpful.
Experimentation. Let me bruise myself and you can learn from my lessons.
Your poor
Thanks, guys.
glasses.
You're
Enjoy
great.
the rest of your Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.